Blog Talk Radio.
Welcome to Mindshifters Radio with your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife, Jeannie. Michael and Jeannie share with you the wisdom of the ancient Aramaic internal process of forgiveness. They offer tools and support 5 days a week. They will support you in building a solid foundation within yourself to live in pure love. In Aramaic, Rachma. Michael is the author of So Why Is This Happening to Me Again? For more information on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. And now your co-host, the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael and Jeannie Ryce.
To the brightness within you and the truth that is rooted within me.
Hi, and welcome to Mindshifters Radio with Dr. Michael Ryce. Our calling number is 646-200-4169. Press 1. That puts you in queue to talk to Michael. We'd love to hear your comments and questions. Today is Memorial Day 250. And welcome, Michael.
Delighted. Glad to have everybody that's with us today. And we are here to support you in the learning and the teaching of forgiveness. Our Memorial Day mention is our ongoing commitment to be part of the team that changed the world from a world of war to a world of peace. And our invitation that goes hand in hand is that you join that team. And our request is that today you look at some form of hostility or fear that your mind shows you that you feel. And instead of pretending that it could possibly be somebody else's fault that you're feeling it, we're going to invite you to own it, take responsibility for it, and if you don't like it, remove it. That is, forgive it. We've been taught a fraud about forgiveness. We've been taught that forgiveness is about letting other people off the hook for what's going on inside of us. And when we let other people off the hook, of course, there's nothing to change what's going on inside of us. If you want permanent change, you have to change the source of the feelings that you're feeling, the experiences that you're experiencing. Otherwise, the mind will just vary the state of imperfection and keep showing you that your content is about somebody else. So the ultimate outcome of pretending that what's going on inside of you and refusing to change it is all about somebody else, of course, is that you have to find somebody to go to war with. Whether it's a verbal war, emotional war, relationship war, or whether it's guns. Doesn't matter. And so what we're inviting everyone to do is to take responsibility and to move through any and every form of hostility or fear that you have, to literally remove your very capacity to even experience that form of hostility or fear. The tool for doing that's called forgiveness. The process is not always Dr. Feelgood. It isn't always a wondrous or wonderful process. It means you have to enter into what's inside of you and be willing to work through it. And so our invitation to you is to join us. Not put the mute key on there. Whoever's making the noise in the background, if you could put your mute button on, that would be helpful. Anyway, the request is that you take responsibility and enter into the forgiveness process. And if you're not familiar with that process, we invite you to go to our website, which is whyagain.com. And on the right-hand side, you'll see a link that says Download Worksheets. But this is, I think it's the sixth link down. If you click on that link and download the first 4 links beneath that or under that title, you will find a whole list of, the whole story of how to change what's going on inside of you, how to forgive, how to go inside yourself, collapse the projection in the game that it's all about somebody else, and to change it from within. So the space we hold for you and what we wish for you is to take responsibility, to join us in changing the dynamic of blame, of guilt, of fault, of fear, of pain, of trauma in the world by changing it in the one place where it is changeable, and that's inside yourself. So we invite you to join the team for doing that, and we would love to hear your sweet voice if you have any questions for us about how you do that or what that all means. We'd be just awesomely blessed to have you call us, and our call-in number is 646-200-4169. And so, Jeannie, do we have any callers or anybody in the chat room with any questions?
We have several people on the switchboard and several people in the chat room, but nobody has any questions. David is on the phone. Tim is not with us yet.
Okay. Well, we'll say hello to David. How are you, sir? Must have a mute button on. But anyway, we are here to support you in this, and of course to support ourselves. We're all in the learning process. There's some research that says, actually it was put out by a friend of mine who was an ophthalmologist, and he did amazing work. He used different light frequencies to go into the brain through the eye and stimulate parts of the brain that were damaged or were inactive into activity. And his information that he would put out said that an individual human brain has an equivalent mute button has an equivalent number of connections to the number of connections possible, to the number of known molecules or number of molecules in the known universe. That's what an individual human brain can do. And so we live on top of this neural net with contact with just the tiniest little bit of what's going on in there. And the surface mind, things float up to the surface from that lower level neural net that represent all kinds of bizarre things and corrupt data that tend to guide people's behavior. And the way to tell that your mind is using corrupt data is that along with that corrupt data, along with the picture your mind shows you and generates, will come hostility or fear. And if there's hostility or fear there, pain, suppression, depression, in any way, shape, or form, then what happens is you're in process. You're in the place where you're now working through, if you're actually doing your work, those dynamics, which when they surface, as I say, are not always Dr. Feelgood. So the movement, when you start to go into your own dissociated mind, the basic bottom line of the game of somebody else is to blame is I deny ownership. How do you deny ownership for something? You say to somebody else, you made me, or this made me. This circumstance made me, this person, what they said, what they did, they really peeved me, they made me angry, they made me sad, they hurt me, they depressed me, they, or it. That's the language of dissociation, which means that when you use that language, you're saying to your neural network with all those quadrillions of bits of data in it, you are not allowed to show me this directly. Please build me a picture that this belongs to somebody else. And, of course, our mind will hallucinate an image that shows us that it belongs to somebody else. Of course, it's kind of hard to escape from the fact that I'm the one who's feeling it. And we tend to go in rhythms and cycles. And as we dig into these deeper levels, the cycles and rhythms can take us into some pretty heavy-duty places. And it takes willingness to continue with your work, willingness to build new brain cells to move forward to a different place than that dissociated place. And so when you open that dissociated mind, when you let go of the language of it made me, you made me, to I feel, this is mine, then you're able to enter into, perhaps for the first time in 1,000 generations, the capacity to actually go in and do something about it. Now, again, once you open it, it's not always Dr. Feelgood. Doing something about it isn't always just this, ripe bowl of wonderful cherries. It's a process, and it takes skills, it takes support, it takes moving forward. And that's one of the reasons we are here on this show 5 days a week to support you in learning and doing that process. This is not an intellectual journey. We're not inviting you to come along. There's some interesting intellectual stuff, but we're not particularly inviting you to come along for an intellectual journey. We're inviting you to come along for a work journey. where you actually put the pen to the paper and you actually process what's in you that's less than love, what's in you that needs to surface and move through. And we are absolutely here to support you in doing that. So, Jenny, do we have any callers? Anything in the chat room? Anybody with a question for us?
No, nobody has a hand up. Nobody's asking questions.
Everybody's being still and quiet.
We just had a hand go up. Area code 607, you're on the air.
Hey, Michael and Jeannie, how you doing? It's Richard in Ithaca.
Hi,
Hey,
Richard.
So we are blessed and highly favored. How about you, sir?
Blessed and highly favored.
Did you notice, were you on the show yesterday?
No, I didn't. I wasn't.
Oh, well, you got an honorable mention yesterday.
I did.
You
Tell
did.
Me about it.
Well, I guess it was actually a little bit of a dishonorable mention. We shared your worksheet that we have on the website, the radio show where you called in, and we had to kind of pull you back into the conversation about yourself several times. So, but you did get a mention yesterday.
Cool.
We talked about.
Well, I just wanted to mention that I did my first workshop over the weekend outside of Ithaca. And it was basically my somatics workshop, which I combined with meditation and your worksheet for forgiveness.
That's fabulous. How did it go?
It went excellent. It was a great weekend, and I had 14 people, so 14 new people got introduced to your work.
Well, that's absolutely awesome. Congratulations, sir.
And it went really well, and hoping to go back there in a couple of weeks and do a little bit of a follow-up stuff with another workshop. So it went really well, and everybody loved the workshop, and I came away blessed as well. And so it was a great weekend, and had my first client that unwound for me, so that was quite the experience too. I'd never had that happen before when I was working with a client one-on-one, so that was a unique experience. And
you got to experience firsthand that we teach best that which we most need to learn. Have you got a breakthrough? What was your biggest breakthrough in doing the workshop, and especially the worksheet process?
Well, for me, when I left, I had this tendency to always feel I didn't do enough, or wasn't quite good enough. So I had
reality.
What's that?
I say an old reality to be forgiven.
Right, something that I needed to sit down and do a worksheet on was this thing that we always have this feeling that we aren't good enough or whatever, so I came away feeling like I didn't do everything okay, and I had to finally sit down and say, Richard, it's time to sit down and do a worksheet and honor the work that you did, and just know that was you did your best. And so obviously that was my mind trying to defeat the work that I had done, So I came away eventually feeling really good about the weekend. I mean, I knew when I left, though, that, there was so much positive stuff came out of it, it was like unbelievable. And everybody saw changes, and it was just a blessed weekend.
Well, it sounds very believable to me, and of course, it's just like life. Doing something like that kind of cranks the energy up to the next level, which means it kind of functions like a mind shifter. It brings up the next layer. And one of the things I learned a long time ago is that when I have this image in my mind of how perfectly I'm going to present, and then afterward I recognize that I missed something or I forgot something or I wanted to put this in and I didn't, is nobody knew that but me. Or
some of my own crap came out,
Right. Right.
And everybody, and it got revealed, So that's pretty much what I was beating myself up about, But again, I had to let go of that feeling that I made this mistake, and and look at the good in everything that I did.
Well, that's a wonderful skill to develop, is to look for the good and to go about doing good. And I acknowledge you for the willingness to step forward and do that and open the space. And we invite anybody who feels it's their work to teach this work to take it and put it out to people, put it into people's hands. And as imperfectly as anybody might understand it or whatever, I know that for me personally, I developed that worksheet started developing it about 25, 26 years ago, maybe 27 was my first Why Is This Happening to Me Again workshop. And that worksheet has been through thousands of different changes and iterations. And I feel like personally that it's in the last maybe 2 years that I've really come to understand the process and how to teach it. So if on your first workshop it didn't all come out the way your mind held it would be to be perfect, it's awesome that you did it, and we're glad to have you on the team doing it. And is there any particular breakthrough that anybody in the workshop had that might inspire people if you share it with us?
Well, there was one woman who, when I came in, you could see that she was blaming everybody else for her situation. And by the second day, she was going, "Oh, I'm in this blame game," and she was seeing what she was doing. And the other woman that she was sort of projecting her blame on was a woman who, obviously, she was very sad. Her face, her lips were literally turned upside down with a U. That's how sad she was.
Mm-hmm.
And she came to me, and you could see she was pretty twisted in her body. And that's one of the things I corrected during my one-on-one with her. And when she came out and stood up with the group, everybody was just blown away by how tall she was standing, how different she looked. And, of course, hopefully by the end of the day, I had her convinced that she could learn to smile a lot more. So that was
a contribution to make to somebody's life.
That was the biggest, the most dramatic one in the whole group. There was other people involved, and everybody had something. Everybody experienced something, I'm sure. You can't help but walk away from a workshop like that and not feel changed or transformed in some manner. And so, yeah, it was a great weekend, and I'm looking forward to the next one now.
Awesome. Well, any way we can support you, sir, you keep us posted, and that's fabulous. And I don't know, when you do a Y workshop, I don't know if we had a flyer on it, if you'd let us know, but please, the next one, when you know what the details are, send it to us, and we'll post it on the website so anybody that we're working with will have access to it.
Sure. I didn't think about doing that because I put it together basically more as a somatics workshop, meditation, forgiveness. So it was just one small facet of the whole weekend, or one third of the weekend basically. And I didn't think to invite you guys to put it on your website for you. That's my misgiving or missight at this point. They definitely though one of the people there is a mind-body educator, and she followed up by asking me the source of their stuff and whether it was a book, and I said, well, I sent her to your website and said there's a free book, downloadable book there, and I think she's going to be trying to incorporate your work in her teaching. I mean, she's trying to organize a group of people now that work on the worksheets on a daily basis. So when I'm down there in a couple of weeks, I'll follow up and find out where she's at with that. So looks like we may have another working group on forgiveness going here.
Very cool. Well, congratulations, and thank you. Thank you for that support, sir.
Well, thank you for the work that you've done, because obviously this is becoming a major part of my life, and I want to teach it just like I like to teach somatics, and I like to teach this, and I like to teach. So it's a major part of my what I want to teach, and
awesome.
and looking forward to your teacher's training so I can learn more.
Fabulous. We'll look forward to having you there in this summer at Heartland for teachers training, and we'll.
By the way, just so you know, I'm hoping also to sign up for the cooking class, I think, which starts the 1st of July.
Right,
so
right.
I'm probably going to end up staying there the whole month of July this year. Maybe I can, work in the kitchen when you're doing the other classes, and stay there all the way through July this year.
Fabulous. So, we can work something out for that. No problem at all.
Okay, I'll talk to you later about that.
All right, sir. Blessings. Take care. Bye-bye.
Should I send you an email about it, or what?
Sure. Yeah, why don't you do that? Just what you'd like to do, and we'll work out the details.
Okay. I'll talk to you later. Take care.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's so cool. Richard came to Heartland this past summer, and did a 9-day Why Is This Happening to Me Again intensive, the same one that we're going to do in April here in Florida. And then we'll do it again this summer at Heartland. And picked up and started to teach, and that's fabulous. We do not have a requirement, if you want to pick this work up and teach it, that you've done teacher training, although if you're going to teach it on an ongoing basis, we certainly encourage you to do teachers training. And, our commitment is every mind, heart, and being on the planet. And we appreciate everybody that jumps in and helps to contribute to the critical mass. Very powerful. Very, very powerful. Thank you, Richard.
And we do have another caller, area code 970. You're on the air.
Hey, Michael and Jeannie. It's Carrie in Colorado.
Hi, Carrie.
Welcome. How's the weather in Colorado?
Oh, man, it is burly. You would just be laughing down there in Florida. It's probably 40 and 50-mile-an-hour winds and snow. And we haven't had much snow this winter, but down here by Colorado Springs, it's just really snowing and blowing right now. I had an interesting experience this morning walking through the drift and this pushing against this wind and feeling this resistance in myself. And I thought, let me just put myself into a loving state. And then I started thinking, and, instead of resisting it so much, and I started thinking, wow, is this how the Red Sea parted, by somebody getting clear enough that they could just be in a pure loving state in relationship to whatever is going on around us. But anyway, Michael, I loved how you opened up the show today and talking about the many generations and what we have to clear. And I'm wondering if you talk a little bit about what carrying around extra weight is about, because I know I have a lot of, friends who deal with that, and it's something I'm working with all the time. And just love your insights on that.
Well, I think that one of the basic bottom lines is an overactive fork. That's, sort of contributes to it.
An overactive what?
Fork.
Overactive fork. Oh, right.
Not an underactive thyroid, an overactive fork.
There you go.
And I think in many cases with that overactive fork, the reason is because the food is being compulsively eaten in order not to feel. It's being used as a drug in order not to feel or not to follow guidance. My experience is that people who don't want to follow their higher guidance shut that guidance off by using drugs, and or people who are in pain use those drugs to anesthetize against their pain. And so to become aware of that pain and begin to forgive is to let go of that compulsion for any kind of a drug, whatever it happens to be. And then beyond that, of course, the work that you do, you'd be able to answer this part of the question probably better than I would, and that is the garbage that is presented in this culture as food, and that people eat, trying to get nutrition. Of course, there's this device in us that says, okay, we've got enough nutrition now, you can stop eating. And if we're eating nutrition-free food, then, of course, that epistat does not shut off. It says, give us more, give me more, give me more. And, by and large, what most people call food is not food at all. And if we eat to fill our bellies and we go to the standard grocery store in this culture, we're dead. I mean, there's only one dietary regimen on planet Earth that has been proven to kill people consistently when they adapt it, and that's the SAD diet, standard American diet. You know, people can go to, live on whale blubber and they thrive fairly well. Then people can go live on rice and beans and they thrive fairly well, and they can live on corn and beans and they do fairly well. But the minute that any of those people that are doing fairly well come here and adapt the SAD diet, they're dead. They begin to fall apart and die. And, of course, obesity is part of that dying process. So paying attention to what you put in your body, that there's actually nutrition in it, is a really important piece of the puzzle. Go ahead.
Right. I was just going to say, because I've worked with diet and lifestyle for so many years, and I'm dedicated to it myself and to teaching it. But I think since I've been doing this work, I've become so much more aware of how connected anesthetizing our pain is to even poor eating habits. And, here we are in a country that just really has too much. And one of the, and food, like you said, is readily available as a drug, really, to anesthetize ourselves. And, I think without doing that inner work of kind of working on canceling, doing the forgiveness work and releasing the pain that we're carrying around, it becomes sort of just a battle of the will, kind of, to try and get ourselves to stick to something. And I think sometimes people can even be too controlling, and it's still being used to anesthetize pain, because it's just we're setting up some rigid system for ourselves instead of living a flowing, loving life.
Yeah, it's amazing how people make up rules for themselves in order not to feel, in order not to follow their guidance, and end up supposedly functioning as loving beings, but really living in drama and trauma, and turning around to bite somebody else's head off at every turn because of the internalized drama and trauma. And if junk food, one of the things we suggest to people is, if you're going to buy food, that you only visit one place in the grocery store, and that's right around the edge that actually grow in the ground, because in the middle of the grocery store there's no food, almost zero food. What's there are denatured products where the nutrition has been removed and sold to the pig farmers to supply nutrients, to where they make money for the pig farmers, because the pig farmers, the cattle farmers, they know that pigs reproduce better and that they have less vet bills, they're healthier if they actually get nutrition in their bodies. So basically what most of the food processors do is skim out as much nutrition as they can, and then and make a profit by selling it to the pig farmers, and then they fill those nutrients in with chemicals. They call them reinforcing and supplementing and added this and added that. You don't need to add anything to real food. It's real food. There are nutrients there. There's everything that you need. But those boxes with the new improved and there's one experiment years ago where they fed rats the boxes that the cereal came in, and the rats that ate the boxes did better than the rats that ate the cereal. Of course, because of the chemicals in the junk. The sugar, the corn syrup. Today, the corn syrup. I mean, it's insane. So if you're going to shop for food, go to the department where they have things that actually grow on the ground. If it's labeled organic, you're a lot better off. Certainly far, far superior if you can find a local farm organization or a local farmer that actually grows organic food and support them. You'll get your food cheaper than you will in the grocery store. It won't be laced with chemicals, and everybody comes out happier and becomes a winner.
Yep, I couldn't agree more. I think a few things in the middle of this store, which range from bags of beans and rice, usually, the plain whole foods that can be soaked and sprouted and all that. But yeah, it's just amazing to me how hard we fight to avoid really looking at things. And I think food and lifestyle just play a huge role in that.
Well, there's actually an interesting film, and I actually tend to forget how violent it is because it is fairly violent, but it's really quite hilarious as well. It's called They Live, and it's one I've shown at Heartland several times over the years because of the fight scene in it when you talk about how people fight, looking at the truth. And these two guys, it's a futuristic type of film where aliens have taken over the planet, but the aliens look just like humans, and nobody knows that it's aliens that are running the game, at least nobody on the outside. And this drifter, the economy is so bad that there are no jobs, there's no money, he can't support families, and this drifter, who's a carpenter, brings his tools to town, and he's looking for a job, and he finds a tent city where people are living, and he goes to live there, and he notices some strange activities around a church. And he kind of sneaks up to watch and look at this church, and they're making these boxes and boxes and boxes of glasses. Well, he ends up with a pair of the glasses, and the glasses, of course, are glasses that allow them to look at these people, or these creatures that look like humans, from the outside with a naked eye, but when you put the glasses on, you can see which ones are the aliens. You can see the brainwashing of the culture. Like, for instance, you look at billboards, and the billboard that shows the happy family, sitting having dinner with whatever. When you put the glasses on, it says, obey, reproduce, follow your master, all that sort of thing. But when this guy finds the glasses, he's just shocked, and he gets headaches, just from looking at what's going on. Which, of course, when people start looking at the truth, they get things like headaches, and they become depressed and pain, and all kinds of things happen. But he's got a buddy that he's sort of befriended, and he wants to show him what the truth is, what's really going on, what the glasses look like. And they have about a 10-minute knockdown, drag out. I mean, they're both big, burly, construction worker guys. And they just have this knockdown, drag out fight over getting this guy to finally put on the glasses and see the truth of what's going on. I mean, they just beat each other to a pulp. And it's hilarious because it's all over putting on this pair of glasses. He almost gets the glasses on the guy, and bang, he gets smashed in the mouth, and he rolls over and he's pounding. It's just on and on and on. And then finally, the guy who wants him to see the truth kind of gets him in a posture where he's defeated, and he puts the glasses on. All of a sudden, it's like, oh my God, I never had any idea. Oh, we got to do something about this. But to me, the hilarity of this scene where these guys just literally pound the hell out of each other in order, one, to try to force the other guy to look at what's really going on, and the other guy in his resistance not wanting to see. It's such a metaphor for how little love of truth people really have, and how they love their stories, and they love the comfortable or actually in many cases the uncomfortable places that they are, but at least they can kind of pretend they're in control of it. So it's an interesting game to start to look at the truth of what's really going on, and especially the truth of what's within us that we've never wanted to look at. It can be a pretty heavy-duty process to go in there and really move through it. And, of course, that's why we're creating support. That's why we have Mind Shifters Radio, to support people in the willingness to go there. And I know that you've really, since you picked up on these tools a few months ago, been really working with your own process and looking at deeper and deeper layers and levels, and I acknowledge your courage and your willingness, and, of course, your willingness to share it with others. Cool.
Thanks, Michael. Hey, I'm going to let Jeannie disconnect me if she wants to keep me on, but shut my volume off, and I'd love to hear you just explain the forgiveness process one more time. One more time.
Yeah, one more time. Yeah, building the brain cells for that is quite an interesting challenge. It's kind of like the struggle, the fight to see truth. when you have been taught that forgiveness is, I let you off the hook for what's going on inside of me. And it's always interesting for me as I travel around the country, been doing this for decades, and I'll have somebody, maybe I've worked with for 10 years, and they'll turn around and say, they've got a conflict going on, and say, but I forgave them, and they're still doing the Greek Trojan horse forgiveness, which, of course, is not forgiveness at all. Once you understand forgiveness, you will never forgive anyone ever again for anything, and you will never forgive yourself for anything. Why? Because forgiveness has nothing to do with what we were taught. And that is, somebody else did something terrible that caused all the pain that's happening inside of you, and all you need to do is let them off the hook, forgive them. That, my friends, has absolutely nothing to do with forgiveness. Forgiveness, in its original sense on this planet, is the tool with which you go inside yourself and change the contents of your mind. It's the tool with which you remove what never belonged. And in essence, what has to happen, the standard person who lives in the Greek pretend forgiveness, let's call it. You did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, but it's okay, I'll forgive you, I'll let you off the hook. Leaves the source of the pain, which of course is within, fully intact. So when I say you did something really terrible that caused all this pain inside of me, what has happened is I have denied my pain and therefore dissociated from it and hidden it somewhere inside of me. When I hide it inside of me, the deeper I hide it, the stronger the energy wave is that radiates from me that sets up somebody to come in and do it to me again. It's an invitation. So literally every thought I think is an actual energy pattern. And when I deny and dissociate from the energy patterns that I hold within me, then I send those patterns out to others, and through a law called the law of resonance, I draw somebody in to do it to me again. When they do it, I hallucinate. How do you tell if you're in a hallucination? Is there any form of hostility or fear happening in your physiology? Pain, drama, trauma, depression. If there is, then you're in an hallucination. You're in something that isn't true. The truth about you is that, and just go back, just take a second. Have you ever held a newborn child? If you're in some kind of pain right now, imagine that time when you first held that newborn. Just tap into that absolutely awesome presence of love. I mean, it is just so powerful. Tap into it for a moment. Be with it. Remember that little face the first time you saw it? You held that little tiny, tiny body in your arms. And it was just this awesome delight. So you were experiencing a human life. That is the only thing that's true about you. Everything else is an hallucination. Everything else but that truth about you is a fraud, and it's a lie. However, we live in a culture that is so filled with the fraud and the lie, and is so surrounded with us with virtually everybody living in the fraud and the lie, that here we are in this awesome place called the Garden of Eden, where we have this beautiful thing called sunshine or snow. Although, Carrie, I question whether humans are designed to live in that kind of stuff, but, it's a good thing to visit. But living there is like, oh, no, thank you, I'll pass. But anyway, this awesome beauty, this incredible, I mean, we get flowers, we get rain, we get sunshine, we have this awesome presence of love called this newborn. We were plunked right down here in the Garden of Eden. And then somebody, usually me, stuffed something in me that was unlike that awesome presence of love. It was pain, it was fear, it was hatred, it was vengeance, it was terror, it was horror, it was ugly, it was nasty, it was just traumatic. And once we filled our own body minds with that stuff, we activated and resonated what was passed on to us by our previous generations who, knowing what you know about your previous generations, think about your dad, think about your mom. What kind of trauma, what kind of pain did they carry in their lives and pass on to you, and perhaps even today yet live above or try to live above and pretend isn't there. They've never addressed it, never resolved it. So that was given to you. It is not your heritage. Your heritage is this pure presence of love. But when the genetics carry all kinds of trauma, the insanity of the world, then there tends to form a reality generation mechanism that says, I'm not love, and I don't deserve love, and nobody around me does, and all I have to do is escape from the whole game, and then things will be better. That's where forgiveness is necessary. So how do you forgive? Well, first of all, I recognize that the output of my mind is my own unique individual reality. Nobody in the room has the same reality as I do. People will get together with others and try to compare notes and get somebody who will agree with them, somebody who will buy into the hallucination that they have. But no two people have the same reality because no two people have the same content in their minds. And there's some interesting Harvard research that says that in a time frame where 10,000 brain cells are firing, there are 10,000 measurable units of electrical activity going on, the max amount of data available is 9 bits. 9 out of 10,000. Now, golly, my math brain I haven't used in a long time, but I don't know what fraction that is. If you've got a calculator available, I've never really thought about the actual fraction. It's got to be 0.001% of what's going on in us comes to conscious awareness. And at the root of what comes to conscious awareness is all this unresolved, dissociated drama and trauma. When somebody comes along that resonates that drama and trauma for me, that I've denied and dissociated from, I have a goal for them, and that goal acts as a driver that selects which 9 bits of information my mind is going to use to build my brain's image of this current situation. If it selects data that's based in hostility or fear, drama, trauma, or pain, I'm going to be in hostility, fear, drama, trauma, or pain. And by so doing, I will lose my human life. Remember, go back once again, remember the first time you saw that awesome, beautiful newborn face? And what a presence of love it was? That's the truth about you. This other stuff isn't true about you. It may be your truth, but it's not true about you. You can tell a lie. If you're not experiencing yourself as the same awesome presence as that newborn face you first looked at, it's because you bought a lie about yourself. So the work of forgiveness is undoing the lie. Whichever part of the lie is currently taking over my awareness takes over my awareness because I have a goal for the current situation. That goal acts as a driver, and if that driver causes my mind to use data based in hostility or fear to build my current reality, then what I need to do is to forgive what underlies my current reality, that is, remove it from my mind. The way that I do that is by identifying the goal that I hold for the current situation. or the current object of attention. I'm looking at a person, I'm looking at a situation, whatever it is. You know, I can remember, let's use an example, one of my favorite movies when I was a kid were these guys that had an old Model A Ford, and they robbed a bank, and they're racing out of town. There's this big curve at the end of town. They're racing out of town. They miss the curve. The guy smashes into a tree. The car sits there steaming, and he gets out of the car, and he shoots the car. Like the car's to blame for driving off the road. So that would be a forgiveness worksheet on a car. He had a goal. The goal was for the car to stay on the road. When he drove the car off the road, of course, blaming the car, otherwise he wouldn't get out of the car and shoot the car. Might get out of the car and shoot himself, cancel that thought, but he wouldn't be shooting at the car. Whatever we're currently blaming, we have a goal for it, and our mind uses our own corrupt data, our own hostility and fear-based data to build the picture, the world that we see and the feelings we feel. Now, sometimes, and it's kind of like the flood story, we can be overwhelmed when flooded with that generational trash, that generational pain and trauma, especially if you're the first one who, instead of living above it, you know, finding some way to rationalize and you know, pretend everything is wonderful while there's this stuff going on under the surface, if you're the first one in the bloodline who says, okay, I'm actually going to open this, I'm actually going to work through this, I'm actually going to speak of it, I'm going to look it square in the eye and work through it. How do you look it square in the eye and work through it? Well, you look at the goal you've got for the current circumstance. And in the Aramaic language, the word forgive is shabag. It literally translates to cancel. And what you do is you cancel that goal, which may seem totally counterintuitive, backward, inside out, upside down. But here's what happens when you cancel the goal. You've unloaded the driver that causes your mind to use this particular data and project that the problem is outside of you. So as you cancel the goal, you literally collapse the output of your mind. When that is collapsed, you then have an open channel directly to, rather than through projection, you have an open channel directly to the hidden part of the mind. And so as you forgive, as you cancel and let loose that hidden part of the mind, that goal, then the hidden part of the mind is allowed to surface. And one of the steps in the forgiveness process, if you go to the website, you can follow along with this worksheet. On the right-hand side, you'll see a link on whyagain.com that says download worksheets. So when you cancel the goal, you collapse the projection, and then you ask for support. You ask for help. In the Aramaic language, there's a power that was called Rukadukudsha. It's the words from the ancient scriptures were translated as the Holy Spirit, but it says nothing about a disembodied spirit being. It speaks about an actual elemental force in us that, when invited into activity, will undo the effects of our errors and teach us the truth. So you invite that power to go to work in you. This is all explained, by the way, in the first link under the download worksheet section on the worksheet. There's the chapter 24 from my book, which gives instructions for the worksheet. The second link is the actual worksheet. And then there are 2 radio shows, or one of them with Richard, where we walk somebody through the forgiveness process. So those 4 links will give you the whole story and guide you personally through the forgiveness process. But once you've canceled the goal and collapsed the projection, you now have direct access, and what you're asking of this elemental force, higher power, super processor, is you're asking it to go to work in you to move down to the deepest levels possible of your mind and remove these things. That's the core of the forgiveness process. That's where it happens. It is the removal of what never belonged. What is it that blocks you from knowing your essence as, you know, the first time you were taken from the womb, somebody held you in their arms and looked at you and went, what an awesome presence of love. What blocks you from knowing that's true about yourself? Only 1,000 generations of reality that say, who knows what kind of garbage. I know a few weeks ago we had a woman, and in a workshop, and we were asking, what kind of things were you told about you? And this woman was actually told by her father when she was 6 years of age that until she was born, their family was perfect. They had a perfect family, and when she was born, she ruined the family. What a load to lay on a 6-year-old child. And this woman was in her 40s, and she's still dealing with, she's the problem in everybody's world, instead of experiencing herself as this awesome, active presence of love. So to recognize who you are and that you need to process through whatever lies you've been told. And, we carry 1,000 generations of these lies. What kind of vile things have happened in our bloodline? What kind of vile things have happened to our ancestors that are carried within our own genetics? And so you breathe and you invite that power to go to work in you to remove and to move through those things. And then you look at consciously from the essence of your being, implanting a new goal in your mind, something that actually comes from love, something connected to love. And in essence, that's the reality management forgiveness process. That's a short-form explanation of how the process works. Again, the third and the fourth link under download worksheets on whyagain.com. If you look over on the right-hand side, you see a link that says download worksheets. The third and fourth link are actual radio shows where we walk somebody step by step through that whole process. So aside from this set of guidelines, if you're listening to the show, go to the site, download those 2 MP3s. You just right-click on them and say save to target. Save it somewhere on your computer where you know where they are. Double-click on it, and you'll be able to listen to that whole radio show. And we walk somebody step by step through the whole process. It's the third worksheet that's there is absolutely awesome and so profound. One of the most profound I've ever worked with somebody in going through. And then the fourth one is the worksheet with dear friend Richard, who was just talking to us about his first workshop. And we walk Richard through the process. And Richard was a little bit in resistance in that particular show, and so it's a great demonstration of how we can get into resistance and have a dissociated conversation. And the dissociated conversation is when we say, they made me, he made me, she made me. So we're looking to bring responsibility back home. And we're, really, truly, just if it seems like it's not possible to you at this moment, just imagine for a moment that you could return to your experience of your newborn essence as you were originally created and came into this world, naked of every hostility and fear. That's what we're looking to support you in, having that experience. And when you have that direct experience, it is so awesome. It is so powerful. You will know how worthy you really are. And the only reason you don't have that experience 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year is your mind has been filled with other gods, other lies than love. The truth about you is it's simple. You are the awesome active presence of love. The lies you've been told all have to be forgiven. And it's not just the ones that are from your own lifetime, but genetically, these things are passed from generation to generation. There's a link on the website that Jeannie put up for a video called The Ghost in Your Genes. Go watch that video. The geneticists, we've been teaching this for decades. The geneticists and the scriptures were teaching it thousands of years ago. The geneticists are just starting to catch on. These things are passed on from generation to generation. That's why in the story, remember that old story of the Jews wandering in the desert for 40 years, a journey that should have taken about 2 weeks. It took them 40 years to make the journey. Why? Well, they said in order to get out of the desert into the promised land, the old generation had to die off. That didn't mean everybody in old physical bodies had to physically die. The root of the word generation is generare, it means cause. All of the old causes. And just give yourself some space and be patient with yourself. When you start opening these veils that take you into these deeper places of yourself, you're going to find some very unpleasant stuff there. And it's not going to disappear in an instant. Enough willingness, and there are some cases where it will disappear in an instant, but it's probably going to take a little longer. So just, rather than buying into it or getting lost into it as the truth about you, recognize you're in a rhythm of healing, and you're going through a process, and keep remembering. That means remember, reconnect to the truth of you. You are the same awesome, active presence of love as that awesome, active presence of love that you picked up as a newborn with that little, tiny, tiny face. And notice that, that newborn maybe doesn't function all the time as that awesome, active presence of love. If you're the parent, that's the truth about them, right? But if they buy into other stuff, if they buy into what, maybe you've taught them, what the culture's taught them, then they're ready for fight and strife and conflict and rage and all sorts of things. But that doesn't change the truth about them. You held them as a newborn. You know the truth about you. I invite you to imagine holding yourself as a newborn and reconnect with the truth about you. I don't care what your circumstances are. It doesn't matter what terrible things you've done or what terrible things have been done to you. The truth about you remains intact. It remains the same. You are the awesome, active presence of love. And we invite you to forgive everything that's less than that and change the world. Jeannie, we're down to just a couple of minutes.
We are down to 3 minutes. There was a comment in the chat room of trying to remember themselves as a newborn, and I just wanted to share that, there was one person that I worked with several years back, and she didn't have any children, and she couldn't remember herself as a child, and she had never had anything to do with any babies, and so she had a difficult time trying to reconnect with that. And but she had a cat that she absolutely loved. And at first, working through worksheets, she would have to go physically get her cat and put her cat in her lap and pet it to be able to get to a connected space. And then finally, she was able to do it just thinking about getting her cat. And then eventually, she was able to think of a human as being that sweet and perfect as well. But it was a process, even at that, trying to get to imagine a newborn for her. So sometimes that can be a challenge for people.
Well, let me share my newborn experience. If you don't have one, you're listening to the show. I birthed my daughter at home, and her head delivered. And of course, they tell us a newborn can't focus for a certain time period after birth. Well, her head delivered. She opened her eyes, and her focus was absolutely 1,000% clear. Just a laser look in my face, and a grin, a smile. And she literally sent me into a mindless dimension of absolute connectedness with love. So if you have trouble imagining a newborn, just, I've got my hands around her head. She's delivering. Her body hasn't delivered yet, and I get that look, and it sends me into another dimension. I think we're designed to be there for the birth of our newborns so that we experience that and notice that the culture says, no, Dad, you're supposed to be drunk and giving out scars. Mom, you're experiencing a disease process. That's how we get third-party pay, and we're going to drug you and put you out of it so that you're not home for the experience. We invite you each to have that experience. And out of that experience of your true essence to create the best you get of your eternal life. We hold you in the blessing. Bring somebody to the show with you tomorrow. By the way, Sunday, Holiday, Florida. We just added a workshop today. It's Sunday, day after tomorrow. Why is this happening to me again in Holiday, Florida? If you're in the area, check our website.
Thank you for listening to Thank you for listening to Mind Shifters Radio with the Forgiveness Doctor, Dr. Michael Ryce, and his wife Jeannie, who present the internal Aramaic process of forgiveness. Michael and Jeannie are here every Monday through Friday on Earth Angels Radio. For more on Michael and Jeannie, please visit www.whyagain.com. That's www.whyagain.com.